Thank you very much for coming today. I'm attorney Gloria Allred. This is Daniela. I'll be making a statement. She'll be making a statement. And then we'll take some questions. We and many victims of Dr. Tyndall are extremely happy that justice has finally begun in the criminal system. We do represent at least 2 of the accusers in the criminal case for whom charges have been filed. We will not be disclosing their names at this time. Instead, we will refer to them as Jane Doe. We do wish to state, however, that we are very proud of the courage that they have demonstrated in speaking to law enforcement about their allegations. We hope that the victims will have an opportunity to be heard in front of a jury so that the facts behind Dr. Tyndall's gross misconduct will be put before the public and justice will prevail. Many of the victims have continued to suffer since disclosure of the horrific allegations in May 2018. We will continue to litigate our civil lawsuit on behalf of 62 alleged victims of Dr. George Tyndall and USC until there is justice for them in the civil justice system as well as in the criminal case. I also would like to add that we are not going to be commenting on whether Daniela is or is not one of the alleged victims in the criminal case for whom charges were filed. Let's wait 1 second for it to be ready. So. Okay, let's move over a little. Okay.
I broke down at work today in tears of happiness that Tyndall is behind bars. I cannot explain how scared I felt walking around with the thought that I could run into Tyndall at any moment, in a grocery store, coffee shop, or park. Thank you to the LAPD and to the law enforcement officers for their hard work in investigating this case. This isn't over, but it is a huge step forward. I am thankful for the support coming in, and I am thankful for those speaking up. This is why we are here, and this is why I am not stepping down. We will not stay silent. The survivors of Tyndall are here to make sure we receive the justice that we deserve, to make sure that Tyndall and USC receive the punishment that they deserve, and to make sure that this does not happen again.
Thank you. And we'll be happy to take questions. By the way, standing behind us is my partner, Michael Morocco, and my partner, Dolores Leal.
Can I ask Daniela, did you know in your heart always that this day would come?
I hoped it would, but it's been a long time.
Were you a patient of his? Did you see him multiple times? You were a graduate of USC. Can you tell us a little bit about your circumstances?
She was a patient of his. She has spoken out at prior press conferences with me about Dr. Tyndall, and after this press conference, we would be happy to provide her statement about what she alleges happened to her.
Gloria, do you think that this arrest, you characterize this as timely, or do you think this was long overdue? I know this was a long, involved investigation.
Well, we understand that investigations take a long time. In fact, we're still investigating Dr. Tyndall and USC in our civil lawsuit. But particularly in a criminal case, there is a different burden of proof than there is in a civil lawsuit. In the criminal case, the law enforcement, that is the prosecution, must prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest burden of proof. To make sure, or at least to assist them in attempting to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt, they need to do a very careful and very extensive investigation. I understand there may be 16 potential victims for whom charges were filed. And if that's the case, then it takes a great deal of time to make sure that they know everything they need to know about the allegations made by these 16 potential victims. In the civil lawsuit, we also have a high burden of proof, but not as high as as is needed in a criminal case. In our civil lawsuit, we need to prove our case by clear and convincing evidence. That's less than beyond a reasonable doubt, but more than a preponderance of evidence, which is what usually needs to be proven in a civil case. The reason we need to prove by clear and convincing evidence our case is because we are seeking also to punish USC and Dr. Tyndall in our civil case. That is, we are seeking to prove punitive damages, damages to punish. In order to prove punitive damages, we need to prove that by clear and convincing evidence. And so we need to do an extensive investigation, for example, of what USC knew and when did they know it. So we have respect for the fact that it's taken quite a long time for the criminal case to be filed, but we're glad that this day has finally come, so that the alleged victims will have their day in court and Dr. Tyndall will have his day in court.
But how does this arrest actually impact now this civil suit?
We are going to proceed with our civil suit unless and until a court decides that the civil suit cannot continue.
Is that something you anticipate?
You know, we don't know what a court will do. Obviously, Dr. Tyndall has the right to assert his Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination and not testify. That doesn't necessarily mean that the case can't proceed. We had something similar in the Bill Cosby case, where we have a civil case still pending against Bill Cosby. It's set for trial in October of this year. And we were able to take Mr. Cosby's deposition prior to the filing of criminal charges. But then when we prevailed on our motion to compel him to sit for a second deposition, the court granted our motion but stayed our being able to take his deposition until the conclusion of the criminal case, because at that point the criminal charges had been filed. So, but that case is proceeding.
Have you sought a deposition of Tyndall at this point?
Have we,
Sought a deposition of Tyndall?
of Dr. Tyndall? Not at this point. Is that correct? Yeah, we haven't.
Is there a reason why you don't want to say whether or not she's one of the 16?
Yes, there is a reason.
Danielle, I spoke with another one of Dr. Tyndall, a couple of Dr. Tyndall survivors today, getting their reaction, and one of the women told me that she was disturbed, is the word that she used, that he continues to deny any wrongdoing. She says, I want him to own up to these things. How do you feel about that?
I don't think that's something you want to comment on right now. I'll comment on that.
Go for it.
It is not surprising that in the midst of a criminal investigation of a suspect and in the midst of numerous civil lawsuits filed against him, that a suspect would not be making any admissions of guilt or even say that he's innocent. Having said that, I understand the emotions behind the statement that the victims have made to you or that the accusers have made to you. You know, because it's hard to wait for what they think should be a just result. But patience is called for in this matter. Criminal cases and civil cases often move at what many people consider to be a glacial pace, but it's hard on people who allege that they are victims and feel that they know the truth, and they want things to move forward.
How difficult do you think this criminal case will be to prove? I mean, based on your experience, it's not a rate per se, or
I can't make any predictions about what the outcome of the criminal case may be. They have many alleged victims. And we don't know if more will be added later. We don't know if there will be others who will be witnesses who are not alleged victims. So we don't have access to knowing all of the evidence that law enforcement has in the criminal case and how strong it is. But I would say, given that there are so many alleged victims and probably many, many charges filed, it's going to be a challenging case, both for Dr. Tyndall and also for the prosecution.
Daniela, I know that you read how you broke down in tears, but can you just, when you got the news, I mean, can you explain how you felt, who told you, and how you really felt?
You're not going to comment on who
Okay,
told her,
okay.
but you can say how you felt.
I felt really relieved, like I mentioned, that I wouldn't run into him. That was a really disturbing fact. And I felt that this is a great step forward. And I'm happy that people are standing behind and believing those that are stepping forward. It's a really scary and frightening and sad experience to be going through, but I'm relieved that there are people who believe and are, fighting for us.
And Daniela was, I believe, the first of our 62 clients, and also the first to speak out publicly about what she alleges is truth about her life and what happened with her and Dr. Tyndall. So she has been very courageous and a real leader at USC.
Would you say that you have formed kind of a bond with some of the other women involved in the case?
Which case are you talking about?
The case that she's involved in with you, even.
The civil case?
Yeah.
Well, she certainly met at the press conferences some of the other accusers that we represent, and I know that they all feel very strongly, right, about justice.
Very strongly about justice, and it's nice in a morbid way. It's good that there are other people who are going through this together, and that I'm not alone in it.
Okay, so Danielle, I'm sure, will be monitoring the criminal case as many, many other alleged victims are. I mean, there are hundreds and hundreds of alleged victims. Some did not feel that they could speak to law enforcement in addition to being accusers in a civil case. And we respect the fact that They did not wish to do so. No one is required to do so. But if they wish to do so, they certainly can do so. And, but, some just feel as though it's just too much for them, or they wish to maintain their privacy. And so many of them are listed as Jane Does in our civil case as well, although Danielle is not.
Of the 62, you're saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
many are. And so what I'm saying is, of the hundreds of victims, some of whom we represent, some of whom others represent, not everybody has spoken to law enforcement. And that's fine. Okay, any other questions?
Just, can you pronounce your last name for us?
Mohazeb.
Okay, any other questions? All right, thank you so
Thank you
much
very
for
much.
coming.
Thanks a lot.